Essex County, New Jersey. Last year, the chairman had brought me on to do paid media for the candidates, and Assemblywoman Morales was one of them. And when she was elected, she became the first Puerto Rican Assemblywoman in the state of New Jersey. And I'm so excited to hear her remarks tonight, and I'm so grateful that she's here. Assemblywoman?
Thank you so much, Roslyn, and thank you for all of those who put this speaking engagement together. I was told to bring our flag, and I see some of you all on this Zoom representing your flag, so I brought my flag, Boricua, Puerto Rican, and you know, if you know anything about the Puerto Rican history, we are very proud of this Puerto Rican flag, because at one time in history, we were not allowed to fly this flag on the island. We will literally get arrested for flying this flag on our island until that law was obsolete and people were so proud of waving this flag. So I am waving my flag tonight. So I love what everyone has shared this evening already. I am excited about getting Kamala Harris elected, and there's so many reasons why. Most of you already shared the reasons why it's so critical to come out and vote in this election. But I'm gonna speak through the lens of being a Puerto Rican woman, where my parents came from Puerto Rico to the mainland to have a better opportunity. And so a little bit, since everyone's sharing a history, let me give you a little bit of history about Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico, you know, many people may not know this, but it is a US territory. And currently there are about 3.1 million residents who are US citizens, but they cannot vote in the general presidential election. 3.1 million residents on the island who cannot vote for general presidential election, although they are US citizens. The island is impacted and affected by so many federal policies related to disaster recovery, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes when Hurricane Maria hit the island. When we talk about healthcare, when we talk about economic development, these are issues that fall under the president's purview, and Puerto Rico's well-being is tied to the United States national interests, including military strategy and trade in the Caribbean, right? So although residents in Puerto Rico cannot vote in the US presidential election, Puerto Ricans who live on the mainland, we can vote and we can influence the election. Currently, there are 5.1 million Puerto Ricans living on the mainland where they can vote and make an impact as to who's going to be the next president. So when we talk about eligible voters, based on the 2020 presidential election, there were around 32 million eligible Latino voters, making them the largest racial or ethnic minority group in the United States. They represented 13.3% of all eligible voters. The turnout, listen to this, the turnout of Latino voters in 2020 was about 53.7%, which was an increase from the 2016 election when we had to vote for Hillary Clinton, right? So when the 2016 election happened, there was about 47.6% of those who voted. And I think when Trump came into office, Latinos were like, oh no, we cannot have this happen, right? So 53.7%, but Latinos are key voters. And they have significant influence, especially in swing states. So let's talk about some of these swing states like Florida, like Texas and Arizona and Nevada. So in Florida, 20% of eligible voters were Latino in 2020. So what does that mean? We have a huge impact in this election. We need Latinos to come out and vote. We need Latinos to feel like their voices are going to be heard. I have to tell you a story about my dad. My dad never voted in any election. His first election that he voted on was my election last year. And when I spoke to him about why he doesn't want to come out to vote, his words to me was, why? Are they really making an difference? Look at what's happening in Puerto Rico. So let's talk about Hurricane Maria. And if anyone remembers the failed administration of Donald Trump towards Hurricane Maria, Puerto Ricans will never forget. They will never forget that moment where Donald Trump's administration failed the Puerto Rican community. It was widely criticized as one of the worst and slowest and inadequate response to Hurricane Maria. The lack of urgency, the lack of resources that left Puerto Rico in a prolonged humanitarian crisis with power outages that lasted for months. I had family members that were impacted by that. The inadequate medical care and the insufficient federal aid. So we will not forget the disrespect. And if anyone saw this during that 2017 Hurricane Maria incident where Donald Trump went to Puerto Rico and started tossing paper towels into a crowd of hurricane survivors. This was totally disrespectful. This is the man that is running for office again, and we should never forget how disrespectful he was to those on the mainland. So let's talk about why we need Kamala in office. Let's talk about Kamala's commitment to the Latino communities. She has consistently demonstrated her commitment to the Latino communities by always advocating for policies that impact economic inequality, impact healthcare access, and let's not forget about education reform. Someone already spoke about it. If Donald Trump gets elected, the Department of Education will be obsolete. I'm an educator. I'm in a school district. What does that mean for us? Federal funding will not come to the districts who need it the most if we don't have a Department of Education. We cannot let that man get back into office. So what has Kamala done for us? First of all, Kamala Harris was very vocal and supportive during Puerto Rico's recovery efforts after Hurricane Maria. Let's not forget that. And Kamala Harris, she's outlined plans to increase economic opportunities for Latino families by supporting small businesses, creating more job training programs, and promoting access to affordable housing, which is what everyone needs. All of which are key to improving economic standing of Latinos and Puerto Ricans in communities. So let's not forget why this election is very important. We cannot go back to 2017. And what does Kamala Harris says? We cannot go back. We will never go back. We need to move forward. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak through this lens. And I hope that those who are so, it's scary to think that people are still undecided. You either know who you're gonna vote for or you're not gonna vote at all. There shouldn't be an undecided vote right now. Make sure you come out to vote. We need every voice to count. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Morales. I take my hat, well, not so much my hat. I have a lot of hair, but I push back my hair for all the educators out there that at sometimes are really raising America's children.
Ay, 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 ay.